Well, I think it's quite difficult to defend somebody who puts you in a position of saying we should put somebody else besides Americans first, especially when he's just given billions of dollars to bail out Argentina.
I think first of all, it was a currency swap, which we made a profit on. Number two, it's quite easy for me to be perfectly comfortable with the President of the United States, who's presiding over a broad coalition that does have disparate views. The previous administration, you couldn't sit here and tell me who the hell was in charge. I know who's in charge.
You're right,
of this
and I'm not going to defend it. I'm not sitting here to defend that. So I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. So all I'm saying is if you had somebody else saying the exact same thing, would you make the same argument?
In today's video, Madeline Summerville destroys Scott Jennings on CNN's Newsnight with Abby Phillip as they clash over Donald Trump's chaotic stance on H-1B visas. Madeline Summerville calls out the clear hypocrisy. Trump claims he's protecting American jobs while also admitting the US doesn't have enough talent, completely contradicting his own message. Scott Jennings tries to defend the confusion, but the contradictions behind Trump's immigration policies, from skilled worker shortages to his inconsistent political messaging, become impossible to ignore. So let's dive in and watch how Madeline Summerville shuts down Scott Jennings on CNN's Newsnight with Abby Phillip.
There are a lot of things happening there, including a huge rift actually within the Republican coalition on this issue. But that's that piece where he says, no, you don't. You don't have the talent, in response to her question.
I mean, this is yet another circumstance where the president seems to be having a very difficult time defending his own policies here. And I am someone who's generally in favor of more immigration, who's been very in favor of these H-1B visas, which have been indispensable to the tech industry. It would be great if he had the ability to articulate why these are a good idea right now, why these don't necessarily crowd out American applicants for these jobs, people who want to go seek a higher education in the United States, visiting from abroad. Being able to attract the best possible talent from around the world and bring them to American universities to steep them in our culture. Lots of them stay, lots of them create more jobs. This is not a bad policy.
It has been a remarkable success story for the United States, although there are cheaters in the system, that's true, and that should definitely be addressed. But to Camille's point, Trump did not articulate anything even close to that in that soundbite.
No, and it's fascinating because although I completely agree with what you said, I thought it was kind of shocking that he just said, no, you don't. Who is the you you're referring to? The United States? He's referring to the United States as some other entity, as though he's not the president of the United States. And the United States doesn't have talented workers. First of all, I agree there are not enough workers here in the United States to be able to do all those jobs. But the president of the United States just said that you, the United States people, don't have enough good, talented people in your country. I'm shocked that if Barack Obama or Joe Biden or any Democrat said that, every Republican conservative would be outraged by that. That just one line. It's the first time I've heard that. It just struck me as being very unusual for any president to say something like that.
If Joe Biden had said that, it would be, more evidence in your column that he was unfit. I think
Look, he was having a debate with a hardliner about immigration. She fervently believes that we shouldn't have any of this kind of immigration. Trump is in an interesting spot, as you pointed out, with the coalition. He does have people in the party who believe what Laura believes, which is this should be cut off. We shouldn't be doing any immigration of any kind, that's how you drive up wages for workers. That's a big chunk of it. He also has this interesting tech part of his coalition. They like the H-1B visa program. And then he's also got the agriculture piece of his coalition, which has other immigration issues. It's a delicate thing. He's got a broad coalition with really, really disparate views. I will point out he did sign an executive order earlier this year. I think it's a $100,000 application fee now for an H-1B visa. So they did move towards making it harder to get one. I think they would argue that makes it harder to cheat on it. If you're serious, you're going to pay us this kind of an application fee. But obviously he believes there's something to be gained in the United States by finding talented people, maybe with specialized skills, and bringing them here. That he may not be in full agreement with all of his coalition, but he'll get some support on that out of tech and out of other industries.
Camille Foster, Keith Boykin, and Scott Jennings really highlights how the conversation about immigration and skilled labor in America has become twisted by political loyalty instead of logic. And honestly, Camille and Keith hit the nail on the head. It's absurd that a US president, especially someone running on America First, would imply that America doesn't have enough talented people. That's not leadership. That's an insult to the American workforce. Let's be clear, the US has plenty of skilled workers. The problem isn't talent, it's access and investment. For years, trade schools, apprenticeships, and STEM education have been underfunded. According to a 2023 report by the National Skills Coalition, nearly half of all American employers say they can't find workers with the right skills. But that's because the US spends less on workforce training than most developed nations. So when Trump claims the US lacks talent, he's ignoring the systemic issue that his own party has done little to fix. Camille Foster is also right about the value of immigration when it's done responsibly. The H-1B visa program, despite flaws, has been a huge driver of innovation. Just over 40% of Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants or their children. That's a staggering number, and it proves how attracting global talent strengthens the US economy, not weakens it. What's really happening here is Trump trying to play both sides, appeasing anti-immigrant hardliners while still courting the tech industry. But as Camille and Keith point out, you can't have it both ways. Either you believe in investing in American workers and welcoming skilled immigrants, or you're just using the immigration debate as another political prop.
So let me ask you a question. If Trump would have said, no, we definitely need American workers, would you have just made the same argument?
Well, I'm not necessarily making an argument. I'm just telling you the political dynamics in the Republican Party, which is that there's not broad agreement. Some people want it, some people want it throttled, and some people don't want it at all. And he's kind of presiding over all of this. He is in an interesting position because he's known broadly as an immigration hawk, but on this particular point, he is supported by a great many people who see the value in highly specialized, talented people being able to come here.
Who are from other countries, not Americans.
Yeah, so I mean that is a point that's been made to him, and he's obviously
one of the reasons that this is a rift, because Trump has sold his base on a pretty exclusionary immigration policy. Now he's trying to argue with them that actually we should let certain people in. That's why Laura Ingraham is pressing him like this. And he's not really even articulating, to Camille's point again, he's not really saying clearly what the policy ought to be. He's just saying we don't have talented people in the United States to do these jobs, which is not true. But, you know, I mean, it's also just a failure.
Are you arguing that we shouldn't have H-1Bs?
No, I'm just saying what he's saying, that we don't have talented people, is just on its face untrue, but there's a role for H-1Bs that he could argue for, but he didn't.
I interpret it as him saying there's
I'm not trying to put
room
words
for
in his
more
mouth.
talented
He just
people.
didn't make the argument.
When I was listening to it, and I listened to it carefully, I was interpreting his answer as, look, we have needs and room for the most talented people we can get. Now, it will be under the framework of his executive order, meaning you have to pay a pretty significant fee to get one, which I think they believe has controlled this to some degree. But my interpretation of it was, hey, if there are talented people that can come here, they want to be here, and they're not gaming the system, that's something we ought to look at. That's how I interpret it.
He just said, no, you don't. And he said you'd have to get people out of the unemployment line here in order to get them into the jobs that are high-skilled jobs. That didn't sound like what you just said.
No, he was obviously saying that if you have an unskilled worker,
what you're saying and what Trump actually
if there's an
said
unskilled
is the
worker
point,
who's
yeah.
unemployed versus a highly trained or highly educated, engineer, physicist, those are two different kinds of people who would be taking two different kinds of jobs. What he said is objectively true. You couldn't pluck anyone off the street and put them in a high-tech, highly specialized, high-trained area in that moment. Maybe you could train them over time, but if you have someone that's already trained that wants to pay $100,000 to come here and you could do it, why would
And for the skilled type workers, he does advocate for apprenticeship programs, right? That's the cornerstone of trying to train the American worker to do the jobs in the American factories as the manufacturing base starts to grow.
What's really interesting about this debate between Madeline Summerville, Abby Phillip and Scott Jennings is how it exposes the ongoing contradiction at the heart of Trump's immigration stance and by extension the Republican Party's broader economic messaging. Madeline and Abby are absolutely right to point out that Trump's comment about the US not having talented people isn't just wrong, it's deeply dismissive of the American workforce. Because here's the truth, the US produces some of the most qualified engineers, software developers, and innovators in the world. The issue isn't a lack of talent, it's a lack of investment in training, education, and fair wages. Take the tech sector, for example. Many American workers have the skills to fill high-demand roles, but companies often prefer to hire H-1B workers because they can pay them less and keep them tied to the company through visa sponsorship. The Department of Labor has even flagged widespread wage suppression in these programs. So when Trump claims it's about not having enough talent, it's really about corporations wanting cheaper, more controllable labor. Madeline and Abby also raise a critical point about Trump's hypocrisy. He built his political identity on anti-immigration rhetoric, demonizing migrants, promising walls, and talking about America first. Yet here he is defending a visa system that benefits big business while doing little to uplift American workers. That's not a vision for national growth, it's corporate pandering dressed up as patriotism. So when Scott Jennings tries to twist Trump's words into something reasonable, it falls flat. The problem isn't that America lacks talent, it's that Trump's policies consistently fail to invest in the talent we already have.
This sucks for you guys because Trump has put you in a very difficult position because, as my colleagues have said here, right, if Joe Biden or any other Democrat would have said this, you'd be like, that's ridiculous.
I don't know you very well, but I can assure you that the condition of Donald Trump being the president versus Joe Biden in no way, shape, or form sucks for me or Jim.
I think it's quite difficult to defend somebody who puts you in a position of saying we should put somebody else besides Americans first, especially when he's just given billions of dollars to bail out Argentina.
I think first of all, it was a currency swap, which we made a profit on. Number two, it's quite easy for me to be perfectly comfortable with the President of the United States, who's presiding over a broad coalition that does have disparate views. The previous administration, you couldn't sit here and tell me who the hell was in charge. I know who's in charge.
You're right,
of this
and I'm not going to
administration.
defend it. I'm not sitting here to defend that. So I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. So all I'm saying is if you had somebody else saying the exact same thing, would you make the same argument? Can you say that honestly? And can you be intellectually honest about that?
Trump is in a difficult political position because his base is diversified here. Some hardliners, some moderates, and some people who want it more wide open. But they're all part of his coalition. He's trying to find a balance, but he's trying to do what's best for the United States. He clearly thinks there is some role for the H-1B program, but he has throttled it somewhat with this application fee.
He's clearly listening to the tech community. He's clearly listening to the manufacturing community. He's trying to strike that balance. Did he do it in an artful way in that particular interview? Not necessarily, but that doesn't put Scott and I in a bad position in terms of defending the policies. I think the policies are good policies.
What is one
dimension of it?
So he's trying to find some middle ground.
The policy is he has an H-1B program that has a hefty application fee, which means not just anybody can walk in here willy-nilly. You got to be serious.
I thought it was America
I
first.
think you should also make note.
Are you
that
against H-1Bs?
That hefty application
I'm America
fee
first.
is also
So you're against all immigration?
No, of course not. And I'm not against H-1Bs either. What I'm against is pretending that you are somebody that you're not, pretending that you believe in something that you're not, trying to sell the American people on something and pretend like you were supporting it the entire time, and then putting you guys in a position to defend something that you definitely wouldn't defend if it were any other person.
You said you're America first. I just don't think that they're mutually exclusive. You can be America first and also recognize that there may be times you could import talent from other countries that makes America stronger. We've done that for decades.
Totally, but that's not Donald Trump's position.
It's literally what he just said.
Today.
It's literally what he just said.
I mean, I also think that this is not unique to H-1Bs. There are a lot of types of labor that immigrants actually do in this country that help the United States economy. And Trump doesn't seem, I guess maybe the home health workers and the hospital workers haven't gotten to him yet, but those immigrants.
Madeline Summerville, Abby Phillip, Scott Jennings, and Jim Schultz perfectly captures the hypocrisy at the heart of Trump's so-called America First message. And honestly, Madeline and Abby were absolutely right to call it out. Because let's be real, you can't keep claiming to put Americans first while simultaneously relying on immigrant labor, overseas manufacturing, and foreign financial deals that contradict your own rhetoric. Take Trump's business record, for example. Long before politics, he outsourced the production of Trump-branded clothing and furniture to countries like China, Bangladesh, and Mexico. Even his iconic Make America Great Again hats weren't entirely American-made. And while he talks tough about immigration, Trump's own properties, including Mar-a-Lago, repeatedly hired foreign seasonal workers, even when qualified Americans were available. That's not America first. That's self-interest dressed up as patriotism. And Abby's point about immigrant labor is crucial. The US economy depends on immigrant workers, not just in high-skill sectors like tech, but in healthcare, agriculture, and construction. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, nearly 17% of the American workforce is foreign-born, and industries like elder care and food production would literally collapse without them. These are not just jobs Americans don't want. They're essential roles that keep the economy functioning. What Madeline and Abby highlight so well is that supporting immigration doesn't mean abandoning American workers. It means recognizing that smart, balanced immigration policy strengthens the economy and the workforce. Meanwhile, Trump's shifting stance, hiring immigrants one day, demonizing them the next, exposes the political theater behind his message. As Madeline pointed out, it's not about policy consistency, it's about keeping his base riled up, even if it means contradicting himself in the same breath. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.